Hello, scholars. Welcome to our next lesson in the Plymouth Colony study. We are today on lesson number 2. Our objectives for today, what we are going to be learning about. We will learn about the end of the Mayflower's voyage. You might recall we stopped with them at sea, finding it was difficult. We're going to learn about the rest of that voyage today. And we're going to hear about the first things the Pilgrims did once land was spotted. So, spoiler alert, they spot land. All right. When we left off in our last lesson, the Mayflower was making its way across the Atlantic Ocean, but things were not going well. The ship was crowded. There was not much for heat with just one fire. Food and fresh water were running low, and spirits were down, right? They were all feeling low, down in the dumps. If they did not reach land soon, they would all be dead. Finally, after 66 days at sea, the pilgrims heard a welcome cry: Land ho! But, scholars, the land was not the Virginia colony. A storm had blown them off course several hundred miles to the north. Trying to get to Virginia, they sailed south. But another storm blew them out to sea further. Having no interest in continuing to keep going to try to get to Virginia, the Mayflower instead dropped anchor off of Cape Cod in what is today Massachusetts on November 10th, 1620. Now, you might think 66 days at sea, they're going to be anxious to get off that ship. But remember, when they get there aren't buildings there. There's nothing there waiting for them. There's not a hotel, there's not a restaurant. Right? It's just the land in that area. So, some decisions had to be made after they landed in the settlement. Before they could leave the Mayflower, they had a problem to solve. You see, the Virginia Company agreement was for a settlement in a spot that was under English rule in the Virginia colony. But they had not landed there. Because of this, some of the strangers in the group claimed the agreement was broken and said they would leave the group once they got on land. The separatists, however, knew that they had strength and safety in numbers. There's a Latin saying, scholars, in concordia whereas site sunt, which means in union lies strength, which means we are stronger when we work together. The separatists knew this. Winter was near. They were settling in an unknown land with unknown dangers. They knew they needed everyone if the colony was to survive. They would need an agreement that everyone would follow, an agreement that would be used to govern their brand new settlement on this brand new land. So, two leaders were chosen to write a compact. A compact is a strong, solemn agreement or a contract. William Brewster would represent the separatists, and Stephen Hopkins would represent the strangers. Both of these men were well educated and shared English ideas about government. They knew what such a document should say about a community's government, what words would be important, what things would guide their survival together in this new settlement. Remember, a compact is a strong, solemn agreement or contract. Right? Solemn meaning it's serious. The agreement the two men wrote was called the Mayflower Compact. The Mayflower Compact was an agreement to work together, elect leaders, and follow the leaders' decisions. Let's review that. So, as I said, the agreement they wrote was called the Mayflower Compact. And in that compact, they agreed that they would work together, elect leaders, and follow the leaders' decisions. They needed everyone who was a part of this to agree to those things if they were going to survive. On November 11th, 1620, the Mayflower Compact was signed by most of the men on board. Women and children were not allowed to sign the Mayflower Compact. With the document signed, they hurried on deck to see their new home. No friends or family welcomed them. There were no buildings there to shelter them. They were tired and they were weak, and they would need to find food and water. And yet, still, they stayed on the ship. Next, they elected John Carver as the first governor of their new settlement. After electing John Carver as the first governor, they then had to go about finding a place to build their settlement. It was now, of course, the middle of November, and winter weather was setting in. Miles Standish was selected to lead a search party who would find a place for the settlement to be built. They were looking for a safe harbor that would be easy for them to defend, but they would also need to make sure it had good soil for growing crops that they would plant in the spring, and it needed to be very near a source of fresh drinking water. The remaining passengers stayed on board the Mayflower while Miles Standish and his search party explored the area. It was a difficult time for everyone. Food was hard to find. The pilgrims had no way to stay warm or dry. Finally, in mid December, the search party found a clearing that would become their settlement, named New Plymouth. In late December 1620, the men started work on the first building, a common house. So many men were sick that at one time there were only 7 people healthy enough to take care of everyone else. Those first few months in Plymouth, 50 of the 102 colonists died. All the women died except for 4 of them. And in some cases, whole families died during those first months. Things were not looking good for the Plymouth colony. But then March brought hope. And that is where we're going to stop for today. So, checking in on our objectives for today, scholars, we learned about the end of the Mayflower's voyage, how they finally spotted land after 66 days at sea. Food had been running low, as was the fresh drinking water, when land was spotted. 66 days. Scholars, that's over 2 months of school. Think about that. Oh my goodness, that's a long time to be at sea. And we heard about the first things the pilgrims did once land was spotted, right? They picked two people to write the Mayflower Compact, an agreement that said they would work together, elect leaders, and respect those leaders' decisions. And they elected their first governor. After that, sent out a search party to find a good spot for the settlement to be built. Now, of course, your assignment for today, open that attached Google form, answer the 5 questions about today's lesson, and remember, you may look back at the lesson, look at the slides again in this video, listen to some information again if you need to. Think of it as a scavenger hunt to find the answers. Then remember to click submit at the bottom of that Google form once you're finished. That's what sends your answers to your teacher. Good luck, and scholars, thanks for joining me for another history lesson today.